Okay, welcome back. Working on Wednesday's lesson here. This is lesson 7-3. We're working on a fraction as a multiple of its unit fractions. So we've talked about unit fractions before, and today we're going to be working through page 234 together. 234 looks like this. It says multiples of unit fractions at the top. So get your math workbook and open up and we can get going on this. So in number 1, what they give us is they give us these two fraction circles. And if you look, we can see that the denominator here, which is how many pieces there are in the whole, is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have eighths. And in each one, we just have one piece filled in. If we were to write this as an addition equation, so addition means we're adding, that would be a plus sign. We'd have two fractions, it would be 1/8 plus 1/8. And 1/8 plus 1/8, we've added enough fractions to know denominator is going to stay the same. We're going to have an eighth there. And 1 plus 1 would be 2/8. We've also been doing a little bit of multiplying with fractions, so we know that what our multiplication equation would be here would be 1/8 times 2. Now I'm not going to just write the 2, because we've talked about that. You could write it that way, but when you write it that way, it might be a little bit more difficult for you to do. What I'd like to see you do is take that whole number and make it a fraction. We go 2 over 1. And now, when you multiply the fraction, it's simply just taking the numerator times the numerator to get your new numerator, or your product, that'll be in your numerator, and your 8 times your 1. 8 times 1 is 8. We have a denominator of 8, and 1 times 2 is 2. And as you can see, when we add 1/8 plus 1/8, or take 1/8 times 2, we get the same answer, right? So the second multiple, remember, multiples are the numbers you say when you skip count by a number. Fractions are a part of a number. They are a number. They're, a fraction of a number, for lack of a better way to put that. So when you're counting by multiples of 1/8, 1/8 plus 1/8, you'd be counting by 1/8. 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, 5/8, 6/8, 7/8. This is the second multiple because we did it 2 times. So the second multiple of 1/8 is 2/8. Make sense? All right. So let's move on to problem 2. This time, we're working with the fraction 1/5. I'll try and make it just a little bit bigger. Might be easier to see that way. If we're working with 1/5, you can see the addition equation. And they're showing you what it would mean to skip count by 1/5. 1/5, 2/5, so on. That's how you would skip count. So the addition equation, go ahead and give me a pause and see if you can write the addition equation using those fractions. All right? Go ahead. Okay, hopefully you got that equation written. You've unpaused me. We're ready to check to make sure that we did it right. All you're doing here is writing 1/5. And how many times would you have to do that? 1/5 plus, how many times? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1/5 plus 1/5. A lot of 1/5s. 6 of them up here. And one more. And when you added that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you know that your denominator is always going to stay the same. We have fifths all the way through the bottom. They'll stay the same as long as you have common denominators. If we don't have common denominators, we got to do something different, but we're not there yet. Then we need to add our numerators. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The answer here would be 6/5. I know yesterday I told you that when you have an improper fraction, you need to probably switch that over to a mixed number. But in this case, you wouldn't have to, because it's not asking you for like the number of cups or the number of teaspoons or how many pounds. If this had a label and we were saying 6/5 of a pound or 6/5 pounds, then you probably want to switch that over to a mixed number and divide 6 divided by 5 to figure out how many pounds that would be. In a multiplication equation, we're using this unit fraction. Remember, a unit fraction, I forgot to mention that, is simply if you're dealing with fifths, or whatever fraction, it's just 1. So the unit fraction of thirds would be 1/3, and the unit fraction of eighths would be 1/8. It's whatever your denominator is, it's just the smallest part of that, which would be 1 out of it. So here our unit fraction is fifths. We're taking our unit fraction, 1/5, and how many times what are we multiplying it by here? How many times do we write it? 6 times. So we need to take 1/5 times 6. But we know we're not just going to write 6 like that. We can't write it like that. It might be a little confusing. I could even do it for you. If I just write that, some of you might be a little confused. What do I do? Do I do 1 times 6 and 5 times 6? That's why I really, really recommend, and it'll just become habit, take that whole number and write 6 over 1. That's the easiest way to do it. Take your whole number, make it a fraction, you put it over 1. Now it's just multiplying across. And if we do it right, we should get the same answer. 1 times 6 is 6, and 5 times 1 is 5. 6/5. If you look, we must have done this right because we have the same answers here and here. The 6th multiple of 1/5 is going to be 6/5. Again, it's just counting by fifths. 1/5, 2/5, 3/5, 4/5, 5/5, 6/5. So the 6th multiple of 1/5 is 6/5. All right, make sure you have all that down, and we will move on. We're going to move this one over. That's what happens when you make it bigger. All right, we're going to look at number 3. And they want us to draw a picture to represent the equations 1/6 plus 1/6 plus 1/6 equals 3/6, and 3 times 1/6 equals 3/6. So, it's really easy, guys. I'm going to start with just one circle. Okay? And I need to split this into sixths. Probably the easiest way that I can tell you to make sixths is first just split it in half. And then from the middle, you just make triangles. And they're not perfect. Mine aren't perfect. But there's 6 pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And how many of them need to be filled in? Look at your unit fraction. 6 is our denominator, so we have 6 total pieces. How many pieces need to be filled in? Just 1. I picked the big one. They should all be the same size, but I wasn't that great of an artiste here. Then I need to do another one. How many total am I going to need to do? 1, 2, 3. It also tells you right there. So go ahead and make your 6th. And if you need a little bit of extra time, go ahead and hit pause on me, and then when you're ready, you can come back and hit play, and I'll keep going through this. So, all right. So each of these are 6th. We got our 1/6 done here. We also need to fill in 1 here and 1 there. That's how you kind of illustrate that. Now, what I'd kind of like to see you do for number 4, initially I'm going to show you how to draw tenths. I might need a little bit more space, so I'm going to delete those. Move that up. Here's how to do tenths. I've shown you how to make fifths. Tenths are a little bit more tricky. You start with your circle. To make a fifth, you kind of make, I said, it kind of looks like a person with their arms and legs out, and then if you, instead of having a head, you just drew a line up. So there's your fifths, right? To make tenths, you just got to split each of those in half. So what I'd like to see you do is, using what we did in problem 3, draw me a picture, and I showed you how to make tenths, of what it would look like if you did 1/10 plus 1/10 plus 1/10 plus 1/10, or 4 times 1/10. Go ahead and show me what that would look like. So hit pause, work it through, and when you think you've got it, hit play and you can check your work. I'll do the same thing. All right, hit pause. Okay, so if you hit play, you're ready to see how you did. I would probably draw all of my tenths first. So I'm going to make, I know that I need 4 circles. How do I know that? Because I have 4 unit fractions. 1, 2, 3, 4. And also it tells me that right there. Okay? I'm going to draw my fifths. Do them for all of them. And then to make tenths, you just got to split each of those in half. And I know they're not perfect. I wouldn't expect you to be able to do them perfect. That would be pretty, if you did a perfect job, that would be pretty awesome too, but it's kind of hard. Because we're doing unit fractions, this needs to represent 1/10. I have 10 pieces, so I color in 1. I color in 1 here, I color in 1 here, and color in 1 here. 1, 2, 3, 4 out of 10. Out of a total of 10. So you should add something like that. Number 5. Now we're using unit fractions to write an addition equation and an equivalent multiplication equation. And on this one, you can do whatever you want, but because we're working together, why don't we do, we're going to do 5/8. Okay? So what you need to think about right now is, what would the unit fraction be for 5/8? The unit fraction, remember, is simply whatever the denominator is, and we're going to break it down to a 1. That's the smallest fraction we can have. You can have 1 out of 8. You can't have 0.5 out of 8, because then you'd have 1/16. It changes the whole thing. That's some advanced thinking there. But that's the smallest piece of eighths you can have, is 1/8. So you're going to use this unit fraction to write an addition problem that equals 5/8. And also write me a multiplication problem. Go ahead and pause the video, take the time that you need to work, and when you're ready, hit play, and then I'll work through it with you and you can check your answers. Alright, so your unit fraction we know is 1/8. We need this thing to equal 5/8. How many 1/8 would you need? That would be 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, and I can't fit mine over there, so I'm going to have to write over some words. 5/8. 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, 5/8. In a multiplication equation, though, you're still going to use that unit fraction. 1/8, and we're multiplying. How many times do we need to multiply it? We need to multiply it by 5. But instead of just writing 5, we're going to write, I'm going to actually write this down below where we've got a little more room. So we're going to have 1/8 times 5. We always put that over 1. 1 times 5 is 5. And 8 times 1 is 8. There is your answer, 5/8. So hopefully this made sense for you today. That's multiplying unit fractions. If you have time today, my assignment for you is page 236. It's your math boxes. If you look at box 1, I could probably even go there and show you. look like it looks like on your screen. So looking at box 1, this is what we were working on yesterday, multiplying fractions by a whole number. We have our fraction. Tori has 3 packages of cookies. Each package weighs 5/6 of a pound. You have 3 groups of 5, 6. Go ahead and write that as an addition equation and then multiply. Over on number 2, you can tell me if this is a cube or obtuse, but if you don't have a protractor, you're obviously not going to be able to measure it. If you don't have a protractor, that's fine. We've got to make do with what we can do here. Number 3, Daniel drew a line segment that was 5/8 of an inch long. Then he made it 3/8 of an inch longer. How long is the line segment? It says circle all the correct answers. That means there's usually more than one. So look for equivalent things. In this one, things to remember. 1 pound equals 16 ounces. Okay? This would be multiplying a fraction by a whole number. Each ton, 1 ton, equals 2,000 pounds. Meter is 100 centimeters, and 1 meter equals 1,000 millimeters. Okay, so if you need to go back and pause that for your conversions, you could always do that. Looking at problem 5, they just want you to explain what you did to solve this, number 1. So I'll post that video tomorrow, going over how to do that. I usually record them later on today so that I have them right away in the morning for you. But I hope you guys are having a wonderful Wednesday, and we'll talk to you soon.